but you're talking about a side effect from COVID. I was actually just reading something like really big in the medical world that has come from COVID is early detection in cancer, right? So people were not going to see their doctors for routine checkups for a while when early detection would happen for different cancers. And many people are paying the price of that because there was not that opportunity, as much opportunity in terms of the regular checkups.
I didn't think about that because
where
you weren't going.
life-saving detection can happen.
Whoa, because you weren't making those appointments. You weren't going near a hospital.
You
and, the height
weren't,
of
and
everything.
not that you were going in for that reason, but you know how many people do you know that they were in for something else and the cancer was detected?
Exactly.
So that's a real serious impact to COVID-19. But you're talking about something separate. What's that?
Well, this sounds silly compared to what you just said, but I'm experiencing, and I don't know if it's like a circulation problem, but I have cold feet at all times. Freezing
You mean
feet.
figuratively or literally?
Literally, my feet are freezing. I can put 3 layers of socks on. I never sleep with socks, and I have to sleep with socks at night right now I'm wearing flip flops, so it doesn't really help. But even if I was
never
like
have cold extremities?
no, I've never like noticed that my feet were abnormally cold. Like it was right now, like they're icicles, like freeze. Like I feel like there's no circulation going down there. And what is it?
And that you noticed since you had COVID?
I've noticed it since COVID. And Erica, who works here as well, she is experiencing the exact same thing. We had COVID about a week off.
Did you look it up?
No, not really.
Has anyone
don't
do
that. That's
say?
the worst thing to do.
I hardly ever do that
Google.
stuff because then you go down a rabbit hole that's like
Easton,
crazy.
come here for a second. Let me touch
Oh
you.
no! Please don't make him touch your feet.
No, I want my hands.
Your hands are cold.
Go ahead.
Just a bit cold.
My hands are cold.
Yeah. Yeah, just a bit.
Does it feel good?
Feels nice, yeah.
All right. So I think I've always had cold hands and feet.
I do too.
Now, Patty, you've had the same thing?
No, it's funny that you mention it because after COVID, a few times I've had these episodes where my entire body feels really, really cold. And I'm thinking, do I have a cold? Do I have a fever? And I check and my temperature is normal, but my entire body feels cold and I'm wearing like a jacket, cobijas, covers on top of me, and I still feel like I'm freezing. So now that you're mentioning this, I'm gonna Google it because it has happened to me.
My feet feel like I just took like an ice bath or something.
Yes,
I've
that's
been
exactly how it
I've
feels.
put my feet in a nice bucket, and that's how cold they feel right now. So why?
Well, Dr. Vic is going to join us in a second. I just got word that Dr. Vic has been listening, and Dr. Vic is going to give you some feedback. Why are you getting cold feet, Sissany? Literally.
I don't know.
All right, Sissany was saying that after COVID, she notices that her feet are always cold. Her feet are always cold.
Mm-hmm.
Never had really cold extremities, but after the COVID runs, you had a couple runs.
Well, no, I had one, but then there was a
With
domino
kids.
effect with the family. Yes.
Yeah, the family. So a couple runs in the family there.
Mm-hmm.
And does that impact your circulation? Now, I've always had cold fingers and cold toes. And so I don't know why I always have had them.
I mean, maybe you should get that
iron.
checked out. Have you ever thought about it?
But is it bothering me? No.
But it has
It's
to
not
be
one of those things I worry
you guys.
about.
It has to be like a circulation. You're like the blood is not circulating properly to your feet.
But
That's
I
where my concern is.
get my physicals, and my doc says metabolism fine, blood fine. You
But
know,
have you told him that you can't feel your feet?
Well, isn't it his job to detect things that are a
You have
problem?
to
Not me to tell him
communicate.
everything.
So I just Googled it,
Yeah, and what'd you
No,
find?
Bad.
and it looks like it's a mystery of long COVID. It's
Well,
one
let's
of
act.
Okay.
Dr. Vic is on with us right now. Dr. Vic, thank you for coming on. How are you?
I'm doing great, Ryan. How are you all?
Good. Good to have you with us, and no shortage of questions, I'm sure, in your world. But one of which is, Sissany was just telling us that she is noticing that her feet are constantly cold after she's noticed this since she has had COVID-19. What can you tell us?
This is something that can happen. It's been noted in the medical literature frequently. Johns Hopkins actually identified something like this with individuals that have either have COVID or have had COVID. They tend to get circulatory issues, and that has to do with the infection itself causing damage to some of the blood vessels that go to the extremities. People have reported, circulation issues with heart attacks and strokes. Johns Hopkins actually identifies an extremity problem, particularly in the feet, exactly what sits in
Yeah.
problem, and they call it blue toe syndrome. And it's typical of just poor circulation that occurs after COVID infection. And it could result in some cold extremities. Sometimes people will say that there's some rash and itching or pain in the extremity.
Other than discomfort, is there any real issue with it?
It can, yes, because once you cut off blood supply to tissue, that tissue doesn't have good circulation and ultimately can end up having some tissue death as a result.
Huh.
That's
Scary.
Now, Dr. Vic, I've always had
Well-
cold fingers and cold toes. Is that a problem?
probably not, Ryan. I'm the same way as you. I have cold hands and cold feet, but most notably is those individuals that have had COVID. You really want to probably get those things checked out.
Whoa. Scary.
Yeah, I didn't mean to scare you. It's just
Doctors can be scary.
And
Cicely.
where do I go to a foot doctor?
so ultimately, what I would do is start off with your primary care physician.
Uh-huh.
The physician will possibly run some tests.
Mhm.
It will include some lab work, possibly an ultrasound of the lower extremity to identify if there's any problems in the blood vessels themselves. They may do something called an ABI, or an ankle-brachial index, which basically gives them a sense of how well your circulation is running throughout your entire extremities. And then if that shows anything, then obviously the treatment will ensue after that.
I mean, look, I guess the good news is you got some feedback, have it checked out, and then you can have it monitored to see if it's a real issue or not. But there are people like Dr. Vic and I who live with cold feet and fingers, and seemingly we're fine. Seemingly.
I hope it goes away.
Dr. Vic, thank you very much for your insight, your
Thank
knowledge.
you.
Thank you for going to med school, graduating, and giving us all the good feedback today. You take good care, okay?